morning, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. This morning, I'd like to share with you my Da Vinci experience. Now, the exhibit was at the Aerospace Museum almost all of 2009, and I was glad that I could catch it before it left town. It certainly was not an exhibit. When we walked into the exhibit, the first thing we saw was a small movie, a short movie, that gave us a heads up on what we were going to see during the exhibit, and also some information about Da Vinci's life. As we walked into the actual exhibit, we found it very organized. It was into three different categories: mechanical, military, and transportation. There were models that he had developed all over the place, and at each model there was also the model plus a drawing of Da Vinci, so you could see how he developed it in each one and what he thought it would do. There were conceptual models and interactive ones. There was one where you could pull the ropes and see how the pulleys work. And another one, you could turn the crank and see the results. There were models of helicopters, among others, a bicycle, and there was a military one, there was a glider. Now, my attention was really riveted on the bicycle. It was made of wood, and it was up on the wall, so you couldn't ride it. And I got to look at that thing, and I thought, that thing looks just like the bike that I had as a kid. Then I got to thinking, you know, I bet it didn't have a cushy ride like mine did, because the whole wheel was entirely made of wood. There were conceptual models, and there were also, like I say, interactive design models. The conceptual models sometimes were never built or used, but their design element continues to be used today. For instance, Da Vinci made a double-hulled ship model, and a double-hulled ship continues today to be used by almost all of the oil tankers that ply the oceans. There was a model of a three-wheeled car, complete with a handle to steer it, flywheels, and springs. And do you know, we saw a three-wheel car the other day when we came down to Toastmasters. Do you think that came from Da Vinci? I do. There was, in the military angle, there was a huge model of a tank, wooden tank, that rotated 360 degrees around so that they could shoot cannons out of holes or windows that opened up. And then there was big planks of water, big planks of wood that were designed so that people could walk on water. Again, I ask you, do you think that's where the surfboard came from? Well, there was so much to see, we had to move on to the paintings. There were two of them that I was especially wanting to see. The first one was the Mona Lisa. Now, I had heard, these were copies, by the way, I had heard that no matter where you looked, Mona Lisa's eyes would follow you. And I found out it was true, because no matter how sneaky it was, and I looked up, she was always gazing right at me. My curiosity was all better, and so I moved on to the second one that I was interested in, and that was The Last Supper. Now, I had read the Da Vinci Code, and was bound and determined to see if Mary Magdalene was at the Last Supper. Now, the crowd was sparse while we were in there, and that was good, because I stood there painting for a long time, and I counted each disciple, And I tried to put a name to them, and I looked especially at the disciple, Christ's right hand, and it looked like a woman. And so I count them again, and I looked at it, and I walked away from the painting thinking, well, maybe I believe that that's Mary Magdalene, maybe I don't. And so you hear that, Dan Brown? I don't know. You haven't really made your point with me. Now, it was time to go. And, of course, the exhibit is from a museum is always through the museum store. And so, of course, there it was. But before we got to the museum store, it was a rather large room, and there were computers and printers in there where people, young and old, could print out models of some of the things that they saw in the exhibit, and so they could take the experience home with them. One of them was a glide. That worked pretty good.
Did you get that in the camera?
And so we left the exhibit with our minds reeling with information about Da Vinci's inventions and his paintings. We found out that he was born and raised in the 1400s, the 15th century. He was born out of wedlock, and so that meant he could not enter a profession. He could not get a job at a university, and he did not have access to the royal court. He remained stubbornly left-handed, and this is at a point in time when people thought being left-handed was the work of the devil and should be avoided at all costs. And so the thought is, and he wrote, by the way, from right to left and backwards. Did he write that way so that he wouldn't smear ink as he wrote? Or did he do that so that people wouldn't know what he was thinking about and know what his ideas? Or, conversely, did he do it to call attention to me, Leonardo da Vinci, and my ideas? I urge you, if the exhibit ever comes back to San Diego, I urge you to see it. He was one of the most intriguing men in history. An ordinary man doing extraordinary things, truly a Renaissance man, Mr. Toastmaster.